James Clear says, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. These influencers and thought leaders are posting content every single day. A lot of them share content that is actionable, that you can learn tips on how to do X, Y, and Z. If you have a solid reputation, even if you are facing imposter syndrome, to be able to capture and work with whales, you just have to have a great product or service and the ability to capture the attention of those whales and ultimately close them. Owning the mistake, figuring out a move forward, and then in situations where it may be a really grave mistake, you want to make sure that even though this happened, even though their trust has lowered in you a little bit, you address it, you take ownership, and you work to move forward together. So first thing is to have a great product or service, you need to understand.
You're listening to the Real Business Connections Network. Real Business Connections Network. Powered by Balbert Marketing, LLC. Subscribe now and check us out at realbusinessconnections.com. Enjoy the show.
So, Kate, I'm going to share the photo I took of you, if that's okay.
Go for it.
Let's share this baby. So this is Kate Ponzi. We've got a lot of hats here. You're running a white glove social agency at YAP Media with Hala Taha. You're YAP's head HR lead, LinkedIn coach, hiring hat, managing international talent, in-person coordination and logistics, creating and scaling processes, and also being a total badass while you do it. My question for you, Kate, is how the heck do you do it?
Great question. Sometimes I don't know myself how I do it. I think first and foremost, my role at YAP is I run our social media agency. So serving best-selling authors, top podcasters, entrepreneurs, CEOs. That is how I originally got started at YAP, which can be a whole other route that we go down later. But that is first and foremost my position. Every other hat that I wear, I would say plays to my strengths. I'm an incredibly organized, executional, tactical person. I like to plan things in advance. I like to make sure everything is organized and prepared and that everyone is best suited for what we're about to do. And so all the hats that I wear, I'd say most of them come somewhat naturally to me because they play into my strengths.
So you were born this way?
Essentially, yes. Best
you gotta be some kind of crazy to excel at so many different levels simultaneously.
I mean, I think you just called me crazy, but
some kind of crazy. Good kind.
Yeah. A good kind of crazy. A good kind of crazy. It's about knowing what you're good at, what you like doing, and then leaning into it. So sometimes I can be in a position where I do feel a little crazy and maybe not in such a good way, but it's finding the flow between all of the different responsibilities, all the different hats, and leaning into the things where I find my natural fit. And so once I get to do that, it's just smooth sailing from there. And also another big part of it is being able to stay organized, just personally with everything that's going on.
One thing you didn't mention, and I've experienced this knowing you, is you're also a really, really hard worker. You don't cut corners the way some people do.
Yes. And I think I like to think that I'm a hard worker. I think that comes from, being intrinsically motivated. I want people, when they think of me, to think of the dedication, the hard work, the passion that I have for what I do. And so that just reflects through my actions. I can't say that I give 100% to every single thing that I do. It's just not possible, essentially, especially with everything that I have to do. But I try my hardest all the time to make sure that what I'm putting forth, what I'm putting out there in the world is the best quality possible.
Yeah, you do a great job. It's good quality. And from what I know about you is you consistently level up. Talk about day one at YAP. And then we'll talk about what got you to where, you're crushing it. We already kind of talked about that a little bit. Day one at YAP, who's Kate? What are you up to?
So day one at YAP, Kate was a volunteer. I was a social media volunteer. At that time, I was working in a Fortune 500 company. I was working, standard 40 hours a week. I liked what I did. I wasn't super passionate about it. I liked the people I worked with, but wasn't feeling that fire. And I consider myself a bit of a workaholic. I want to work a lot. I love to be driven by what I do and seeing the results of my actions. And in that job, it was such a big company that you felt like a little bit of a cog in the wheel at times. And so I, funnily enough, reached out to Hala, who is the founder and CEO of YAP Media, via LinkedIn. And she had shared that she was looking for volunteers for her team. At that point, the agency was less than a month old. I volunteered completely unpaid, just did it in my night hours and free weekend hours that I had and started from there.
Did you know who Hala was before you saw like that post asking for volunteers?
I did not. I saw that a friend had liked the post that must have been connected to Hala or who had followed her. And that's how I was able to see her. But I didn't know who she was before then.
Interesting. Okay, so then what happens next? So you're like, I want to volunteer. I'm willing to work. I got some skills. Were you able to just dive in and get creative, or did you have to learn the system? I mean, you tell me. A lot of people are looking at their next move. And if we can better understand, a lot of people think they can just get paid 100K overnight. Sometimes you want to intern for an influencer and then get there. So like, how did you do it?
Right. So going back to how I consider myself a bit of a workaholic. And so once I started that, and going back to the fact that I want to give 100%, I want the quality of the work I put out to reflect that. When people think of me, they think, oh, Kate's a really hard worker. Kate does great work. And so for the first, I believe it was 3 months, I was a unpaid volunteer working maybe 10, 20 hours a week, nights and weekends. And during that time, I was sharing some of my skills, my knowledge, but also learning a lot. I think if you're looking to make a change in your career, especially if it's a bigger pivot, understanding that you should be bringing something to the table, but in return, you're going to learn a lot back. Skills you never knew you needed, skills that are essential to the job or the industry or the career path that you want to go on. And so being willing to admit that you don't know everything and just being there to absorb the knowledge. Paula at that time, the founder, she was working in corporate too. So she was working her nights and weekends and on her lunch break and in the morning on her commute. And we would find times to collaborate and I would get to learn from her and I would share my perspectives. And during those first 3 months, it was just a lot of learning and doing, a lot of doing. We call ourselves scrappy hustlers at YAP. To this day, scrappy hustler is one of our core values in the company. Back then, I think we were the epitome of scrappy hustlers. Something had to get done. We were doing it that day. I remember I was a social media volunteer and we were creating posts the day that they were going out, which to me now, 4.5 years later, seems absolutely insane. And it was just, 2 or 3 of us. There wasn't a whole 25, 40 person team. So it was very, very different. So I think if you're in that position, just being willing to learn, to contribute where you can, and just being present for that ride to absorb as much knowledge and experience.
Wow, there's so much you just said there that I want to talk about. A quick thing I just want to add is, from my experience, you can tell me if I'm wrong. When you've got a really good teacher, when you've got like an influencer leader, like someone who's really kicking butt, they often share knowledge a lot and people don't take action. So if you're the person that takes action, they love that. And they 100%. Notice. It's, you don't know how many, but there's so many amazing people selling tons of programs and nobody takes action. And the one person that takes action ends up being part of the team. It happens over and over again.
For sure. And it even boils down to something as simple and free as LinkedIn or even Instagram content. These influencers and thought leaders are posting content every single day. And maybe some of it is not as educational, it's more motivational or inspirational. But a lot of them share content that is actionable, that you can learn tips on how to do X, Y, and Z. I mean, heck, if you go to Alex and Layla Hermosi's YouTube channels, completely free content, you could learn how to be one of the best entrepreneurs in the world just by absorbing their content and actually listening to it. It's one thing to watch it, and it's another thing to actually pay attention, absorb, and then action on what you've learned. And so I think if you're that 1 out of 100 person who does that, you're going to stand, far away from the rest of the field.
So true. So true. So what did you say? You guys are scrappy hustlers? What was the term?
Scrappy hustlers.
What other values speak to you?
Yeah. So we have 5 core values at YAP besides scrappy hustlers. So that's one of them. Second is called obsessive excellence. Third is just whales. Fourth is called we win. And the 5th is called step on the gas.
So I get winning, I get excellence, I get speed. What do you mean by whales? Just whales?
Yeah.
Is this like Animal Planet?
No Animal Planet. So when we sat down, we spent a lot of time thinking about our core values, our executive team. What were our core values of the company now and in 5 years that they could stay as we scaled as a business and evolved? And just whales to us, it has 2 meanings. So the first is we want to work with whales. So whales are the best of the best. They are the best in their field. They are big podcasters. They are really successful entrepreneurs, CEOs. They are making a big splash, hence the whales. And the second is while we want to work with whales, we also internally at YAP want to embody this whale mentality. We also want to treat ourselves as whales. We want to make a splash ourselves with the business and treating ourselves as whales to do our best work, to take care of ourselves, to understand, self-care allows us to do our best work, both as whales and with whales.
A lot of people, Kate, are kind of imposters or have imposter syndrome is a better way to put it. And they're like, well, I'm not a whale. How do I work with whales if I'm not a whale yet? Do you need to be a whale to service whales?
No, you don't need to be a whale to service whales. I think working towards being a whale is always a great goal to have in mind, right? You want to be the best of the best. You eventually want to be known as being great in your field, your industry, but that takes time, right? It could take 3 years, it could take 5, 10, 20, 30 years, depends on what you do. And if you have a solid reputation, even if you are facing imposter syndrome, to be able to capture and work with whales, you just have to have a great product or service and the ability to capture the attention of those whales and ultimately close them to be able to work with them.
Let's talk about great product or service because ClickFunnels is an example. I'm not a big ClickFunnels person, but I feel like everyone learned how to capture attention. Everyone learned how to convert, but most people don't actually know how to create a good product and retain. What do you guys do? If someone's a whale, they're big, they know what they're doing, they're kicking butt. They're going to be able to tell if you stink. They're going to get irritated if you do a bad job, and they have the income to go just hire somebody else. So what are some of the things you guys do for your clients that helps you stand out and retain? You're working with some pretty big celebrities, which is cool.
Yeah. Having a great product or service and a client experience, I think, comes down to a few different things. So first thing is to have a great product or service, you need to understand what problem you solve for your audience. What issue are they facing that only you can solve? And if you have competitors, understanding what sets you apart from those competitors, what makes you different, what makes you worth paying $5,000 more a month or whatever that difference might be. So understanding your competitive edge and also what problem you're solving is incredibly important just to get that client in the door and to start working with them. And then once you have them, in terms of retention, one, always thinking about how can I better serve my client and provide more value at no additional cost to the client. People always want things that will help them more. No one ever will turn that away, right? So I'm thinking, how can I increase the value of the service or the product that I am providing to this client, that's going to help retention. And then the other thing that's going to help retention, which I think is massively underrated, is the client experience. How often are you communicating with your client? Do you have a good rapport? Having standard monthly, weekly, quarterly calls, it depends on your business and how it's set up, but establishing that rapport, having quick communication turnaround, having quick work turnaround, especially if you're providing services like social media, being able to establish that trust with your clients is incredibly underrated. If people like you and they trust the work that you do, even if you face a blip, they're going to be more likely to stick with you because you've had that established already. And so being able to have that, you can lose it very quickly, but being able to work that up over time has massive effects on client retention.
Did you say face a blip?
Yeah. So a downturn, a mistake.
I don't face blips. I'm perfect, Kate. What are you talking about?
You know,
what do you do? What do you do when blips come your way?
Yeah, well, not everyone can be as perfect as you, Ben. I know you're perfect.
It's really hard
but
to
sometimes
do.
So social media engagement goes down, or regardless of what industry you're in, you or your team makes a mistake, something bad happens, unexpected happens. When that happens, it's very, very crucial you address it immediately. It's hard to do because you want to sit there and stir and be like, oh my gosh, what do I do? How do I fix this? The faster you address it and the more head on and the more ownership you take over the mistake, the better. Even though it sucks, even though, the client is going to have somewhat of a bitter taste in their mouth, that's going to be a lot better than you trying to pin the blame on something external. If it truly wasn't external, if it was just the mistake, owning the mistake, figuring out a move forward, and then in situations where it may be a really grave mistake, figuring out how to make that up to the client, whether that is a discount on a retainer or an additional service you provide them. You want to make sure that even though this happened, even though their trust has lowered in you a little bit, you address it, you take ownership, and you work to move forward together.
Ownership's hard sometimes. Then the finger's pointed at you.
Ownership is incredibly hard. It's hard to own up to something and to feel like the bad guy and the fall person, right? I don't think anyone wants to be like, yep, I made a mistake. That was my bad. My team did this. That's never something fun a business owner or an individual working in a business wants to do. But ultimately, short term, super uncomfortable. Long term, it will have the best outcome possible for the relationship with the client and ultimately your employees, your colleagues, your managers. Having ownership is uncomfortable in the moment, but the positive ramifications mid to long term that it has is way more important.
I'm verbal. I'm not verbal. I'm in my head thinking through like all the ways we could take this conversation because of Kate's massive amount of hats. So we're going to do a choose your own adventure. But before we do the choose your own adventure, you guys put on like master classes and webinars and tons of content. Since we're only going to pick one out of 3 topics in a moment in a choose your own adventure, if someone wants to learn more about the other 2 topics, how do they connect with you, connect with YAP, etc.?
Yes. You can find me on LinkedIn. My name is just my full name, Kate Ponzi. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can send me a DM, send me a connection request there. If you want to learn more about YAP Media, you can go to yapmedia.com. You can also find us on LinkedIn and send us a DM there, but it's just more direct. If you go to the website, you can fill out a contact form. And then for our masterclass, you can go to yapacademy.com if you're interested in our LinkedIn Secrets Masterclass.
So choose your own adventure. LinkedIn, let's do specifically LinkedIn algorithm, creating good content, hiring a team. What's speaking to you?
I feel like you've already had Hala on the podcast, right? She's been on, I think, a couple times, more than once.
She's been on twice. We'll put it in the show notes.
Yes. And I know she is the OG LinkedIn expert. I've learned a lot from her. Her and I work directly together for the masterclass on helping people create good content in the algorithm. I will save that content for Hala's episodes, which you should definitely go back and watch. And we can focus on hiring and building teams and all of that good stuff, because that is a big focus of mine in the last few months, especially.
Yeah, we'll talk hiring. And I encourage people, it's in the notes, like listen to the other 2 episodes. Send Kate a DM, send me a DM. I took the LinkedIn masterclass, so if someone's curious about how badass it is, just ask me and I'll tell you how killer it is. So you can send me a DM about that. But hiring, I don't even know where to start with hiring. It's difficult to find, maybe that's a limiting belief. Is it difficult to find good talent that's aligned with your values, that wants to show up and over deliver, like someone like Kate? Are those people out there?
Those people are out there, but I would say it's difficult, right? It's easy to hire a good person. It's difficult to hire a great person.
Mm. How do I hire a great person?
It all depends on, where you're looking, where you're trying to hire them from. We work with both, domestic employees in the United States. We also hire, I think we've got team members in about 6 different countries across the world. So it's really about deciding who you're trying to find. And for us, we've had the most success. We've tried lots of different job platforms, and truly LinkedIn ends up being the place where we hire people. We've gone both the job posting route, and we've also tried poaching people directly. I recently made 2 US hires, and one of them came from a job post that I'd made, and she had applied and went through the interview process. The other one I actually poached, and I reached out to proactively and then sent the job listing, and she went through the hiring process. So it's, you have to understand who you're trying to reach and where they're spending their time.
What kind of person are you looking for? Certain skill sets, certain personality? Like, how do you know that someone should be poached?
The biggest thing, and this is also, good to know for people who are maybe looking for another job or maybe hoping to get poached if they're ever listening, is having the right keywords in your profile. I mean, we talk about this as entrepreneurs in the masterclass, having that so people can find your services. But as a prospective employer looking for potential employees, when I use LinkedIn search functionality, which is fantastic, highly, highly recommend it. Not even LinkedIn Recruiter, just regular good old LinkedIn search. I'm looking for people with specific keywords. If I'm looking for a copywriter for organic social media content, I'm searching copywriter. I'm searching social media copywriter. I'm searching organic content copywriter. If I'm looking for a social media strategist, I'm searching social media manager, social media strategist. I'm searching all these different keywords to try and find those individuals. Once I see profiles that maybe look like the right fit, again, your bio is incredibly important. So your about section, your headline, your experience, making sure all of that is up to date. It doesn't need to be super fancy, but I'm looking for people who at least have the basics for me to reach out, see if they're open to new opportunities, and then inviting them to whatever job funnel I already have. So they go through the same exact process as everyone else. They get vetted, interviews, etc.
So it's fair to say it doesn't matter if you're a social media manager, whatever you do, if this is your craft, you need to show up online proving that you're good at that craft, because then it'll be easy to recognize that you're good at what you do. It's kind of like the, dishwasher that has a bunch of dirty dishes at home.
Yeah, 100%. And this is not to say if you're a social media manager, just to take that example, you don't necessarily need to be posting your own content. Trust me, as someone who runs some of the biggest influencers on LinkedIn, I myself have tried and stopped and started again posting my own content. But you at least need to have the bare minimum. You need to showcase your expertise. You're looking for, do they have the right keywords? Does it seem like they have the right mix of experience? And as someone who's looking for those people, generally there are handfuls of keywords that you would know if you're hiring for a certain position. If they check that box, that at least moves them into the next round.
And you're hiring internationally. A lot of people might just hire in their country. That's a-okay. I've got nothing wrong with that. But if you choose to hire internationally, are you looking at specific countries? Do you not really care where they live? Like, do you find help in specific countries is just better? Like, you tell me.
Yeah, we've tested across the board. We at YAP have a majority of our team members in 3 different countries at the moment. We initiated in India and the Philippines. To this day, I believe most of our team members internationally are in the Philippines. We have some of our best team members in India. And then recently, within the last 12 months, we've been hiring more in Nigeria. And the benefit to Nigeria is the time difference is a lot less drastic than the Philippines. So the Philippines right now is 13 hours ahead of the US. So it's almost exactly the opposite time. So when it's day, it's night, and vice versa. In Nigeria, I believe it's only 5 or 6 hours ahead. And so it's much more normal for them to work a normal-ish work hours during their day and then shift it a little bit into the night to overlap with the US as much as possible. So those 3 countries are the countries that we'd recommend. And we know that we've found good talent there just from trial and error. We've tested other countries. We've got great team members in other countries as well. But so far, those 3 are the ones where we've found a lot of strong talent.
Does it have to do with like competency with English speaking or like that plays a
Yes.
big role?
Yes, for sure. So the Philippines, India, and Nigeria are 3 really strong English speaking countries, right? It might depend on if you are having a more technical style role. So, for example, a lot of my copywriters are in the Philippines because the Philippines naturally are, pretty great at writing English compared to maybe some other countries. Nigeria is really good at speaking English. I mean, lots of people in a lot of different countries are good at doing that. But generally, these 3 countries are good at communicating in English. And typically, we've found that based on just how all the cultures interact, they tend to be more accountable, more present, even though they might be a little bit more shy. They're there, they're ready to work, and they're just ready to get after their responsibilities.
I love that. You can tell me if you tried this country before. It's like a little known. I've never said this out loud, Kate. Well, I have said it out loud, but never on this podcast. So it's due to the podcast. I love hiring creatives from Pakistan.
We've
Pakistan.
never done that. That's an exclusive right now, secret.
I don't know why. I've gotten to learn the culture a lot. I don't know why specifically. I don't want to put other areas on blast. They're really friendly. They're willing to learn. They work really, really hard. If it's not super English speaking heavy, like a copywriter, if it's like videography or graphic design, they're incredibly talented. And they're very affordable considering they create amazing work. And I don't know why. I really don't know why. Like Pakistan's like lightning in a bottle, but if I'm international, I literally only hire Pakistan.
That's pretty interesting. I guess we'll have to look for our next creative hire. We're going to look in Pakistan first.
They will be so happy to be serving. Have you ever hired someone and they kind of give you an attitude?
Yes, 100%.
I don't get that from Pakistanis. They're sweeties. They're amazing.
That's great to hear. Good to hear. Another one unlocked. Yeah, we've also got a couple great team members in Turkey as well. It's a little bit more of technical, lot more like English writing communication, but incredibly, incredibly hardworking. So might be worth spending some more time in that area of the world.
Yeah. Do you have anyone in the cloud? Any AI?
No AI hires at the moment. We use AI and supplement the things that we do a little bit, but it's incredibly hard to replace the human touch, and it's incredibly easy to tell, especially with something like copywriting or email writing. It continually gets better and is evolving. but it's very easy for me to see, even when people use it to write cover letters or they send me a message on LinkedIn, I can tell within 10 seconds that they have used AI.
You know my favorite one, Kate? If you do the dash, I forget what it's called. When you do 2 dashes, it connects 2 words together. It's a great writing tool. I don't mind it. I don't want to overuse it. But if you type those 2 dashes on LinkedIn in the comments, it won't actually connect the 2. It won't create the symbol. But for some reason, ChatGPT's been on the fritz and it wants to make that symbol every sentence. So when I see that symbol on LinkedIn, I know it was AI because LinkedIn won't let you do it. The other thing is Game Changer comes out every freaking 2 words.
Yes. And also the star symbols, the little shooting star, it's a star with 3 little things. You can tell. And typically AI like ChatGPT will, whether I see this in content and in hiring, but it will overuse emojis. And so if you see a lot of emojis that maybe don't make sense with the persona of the post you're looking at on LinkedIn or the comment even, that's a big red flag to me. And 2, ChatGPT likes to put emojis on bookends of a sentence, especially like a header. So that's a pretty dead giveaway there.
YAP Media, you guys have like a fun brand though. I don't know if it's still there, but I know like Hala used to have a rocket ship and that's a ChatGPT like stole the rocket ship. How do you like be fun and personable? Like, do people think that it's not you if you use emojis, or emojis still okay?
Emojis are okay. It's walking a fine line, right? There's no black or white. You know, if you use 3 emojis, you're good. If you use 4 emojis, awful, that's AI. It's finding the balance. And so it differs for person to person, right? Some people are incredibly straightforward, incredibly serious, never use emojis. All of a sudden start using all these emojis, might look a little suspicious. I think it's finding the balance for you. So understanding, just look at your texts. How often are you sending emojis? Using that to infuse if you're writing content on LinkedIn. Okay, I can talk about all these things. If I'm making a list, I can include emojis to help spread those out, make it a little bit more skimmable for the people who are reading your posts. I would just say be cautious with emojis. I would say an underuse versus an overuse. And you can feel it out in terms of how your audience reacts to it if you start to beef up the number of emojis.
I naturally, this is what happens. We sidebarred to content creation on accident when we were talking about hiring. We can't dive 10 layers deep on content, but I'm curious just to ask you, if you were to name 3 creators on LinkedIn that you think produce fantastic content that we all should follow and ring the bell right now, who should we go to for? And I know part of the answer is go to like a lookalike person who has a lookalike audience, but who are some of Kate's favorite, like 3 people that I should go follow right now?
Yes. I really love Layla Hermosi's content. It is smart. I mean, her YouTube alone is fantastic. We watch those videos within our YAP executive team and learn. And it's just a really great resource. She puts out a lot of positive content. That's definitely 1. 2, I would say Gary Vee. A lot of people already follow Gary Vee. You might already follow him. However, he's got the pulse on what's working. And even though a lot of his content gets engagement, he'll get thousands of likes on essentially every post he makes. You can still tell what resonates most with this audience. I was looking at his page earlier today, and you can tell his averages is about 1 to 2K likes per post. The ones that do really good are 5, 6, 7K likes. So Gary Vee is another one that I like. He talks about a lot of different content. So that's really cool to see. And then I would say a third one that I've been enjoying is Chris Donnelly. So I think he talks about a range of subjects, but he talks a lot about hiring and, continually moving forward and learning from your mistakes, learning from your success. He's really understood how to generate really quality content, how to capture an audience, whether it's long form content with really long copy or short form. I think his assets, we were doing some trends analysis earlier today, and that was a pretty good page. Those are the 3 I recommend.
It's a big 3. I think you missed someone though.
I mean, the obvious
What about
answer.
our girl? Like, come on.
Well, I figured she would be a dead giveaway. I figured that would not be able to count for one. So I didn't name her. But of course, the number one person that everyone should follow is Hala Taha. Amazing content, really valuable. You know, we always talk about it, Yap, and Hala and I talk just one-on-one about how can we make a difference for our audience? Hala has one of the biggest entrepreneurship podcasts in the world. How do we take all of the knowledge from the most amazing guests that we get and transform that and put that on LinkedIn in short form content? I mean, just on Monday, just a few days ago, we sat down with Mel Robbins. We had an in-person interview with Mel, and it was fantastic. And we're really excited to share that content. So Hall is also a great page to learn from the brightest minds in the world.
Has anyone ever told you, like, you're Hala's Layla?
No, I've been told that I am the Claude Silver to Gary V. From
Oh, I like that too.
Hala's yeah, however that goes. But yes, I've gotten that comparison, the Gary V and Claude Silver and Hala and myself. I've
I
not
only
gotten
say
the
the Layla's blown up, but at one point Alex was the face and Layla was like quietly behind the scenes helping the company run like it would not be possible. And do you want to go that trajectory? Is Kate going to be a big personal brand or do you like being behind the scenes? You tell me.
I go back and forth on this a lot.
Sure.
So I don't know that I have a firm answer for you today. It could change tomorrow. I'm really passionate about building really strong systems. And right now, when we think about 2025 and even our 5-year trajectory, how can I scale the agency and provide, like I talked about earlier, provide even more value to our clients, build a world-class team, make sure our employees are loving what they're doing, they're crushing their responsibilities and their tasks every single day. I'm really focused on that. I do think about sharing my knowledge and sharing my perspective on all of the different things I focus on a day-to-day basis. Right now, I'm more focused on shifting my attention internally and making that internally we're really set up. Down the line, that may change. I would love for it to change. Right now, I want to continue to put in the work internally so that in a year or so's time, when that opportunity comes, that will be maybe more a public-facing brand.
Love that. I want to end with a fun one. If Hala took over this interview, what would Hala have asked you that I totally didn't ask? Because she knows you way better than most people, maybe anyone. So you tell me.
I think one of the areas that Hala and I work really well together is she is such a visionary. She comes up with the most amazing ideas just randomly. If we're eating dinner on a Tuesday night and she'll come up with a new offering for our clients that will result in millions of revenue. She is incredible. Her brain is just so spectacular. And a lot of the times we complement each other really well because going back to kind of how we started this interview, my strengths lie in execution, in management, in organizing. And so I think one thing that Hala would probably ask me is, how do I keep everything so organized, process wise, when we go to events, making sure our calendars lined up, we are on time, we are in the place we need to be. There's a lot of logistics that go into it. So I think that she would want to know how all of that gets done and how I'm able to keep track of everything.
Is it explainable? How do you do it? It's ingrained, right?
It is partially ingrained. One thing that I've been having a lot of conversations about actually with our other business partner, Jason, we both are, maybe some project management, I would say geeks. And we were talking about how we best utilize project management tools, to-do lists. And I have tested over years different ways to keep myself organized because there's a lot of things going on. And I'm sure that anyone listening to this also faces that similar issue. You've got a lot of things going on if you're an entrepreneur. And for me, I tested a spreadsheet. I tested the Notes app. I tested putting things as tasks in ClickUp or Monday.com or Trello, those types of project management tasks. ultimately, I've been doing it for a little over a year now. I built out my own custom board in Notion that allows me to track across days, weeks, things I need to check in on, whether it's social team wise, whether it's events, whether it's our master class, whether it's hiring. It's the best board for me. And so I say that to say for advice, just test different methods out and you'll find what works best for you. So whether it's a spreadsheet, whether it's your notes app, it's okay if it is really basic. Whatever works for you works for you. I talked to someone yesterday that used Google Keep and that it integrates with Google because they use G Suite. So we use G Suite, so I started checking it out. But just find whatever method works for you. It doesn't need to be what everyone else does. As long as it is something that you can stick to, that's what's most important. I reread Atomic Habits every now and then. And James Clear says, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And that quote really resonates with me because if you don't have a good system in place, especially if you are executing an operational person, it's going to go crazy. So whatever it is, no matter how cool or fancy or basic, just figure out what works for you in terms of keeping track of everything you've got going on and stick with it. Don't let anyone else get in your head about, oh, well, you should do X, you should do Y. Check it out, see what it's like, but don't feel bad about however you best keep track of what you've got going on.
Lots of ways to skin a cat.
Exactly.
I love that quote because it's like when push comes to shove, you're going to fall back to your lowest level of training and competency.
100%. And when there's a fire, because inevitably there will be a fire at some point where you are just running around trying to catch your breath, you need to have a system that works for you. And so whatever that system is, find it, experiment. Once you do understand and see the light, just stick with it.
I feel so attacked. I was on vacation recently and I knew that if a fire started that I didn't have the proper system and luckily I didn't have to drop everything because no fires began. But wouldn't I have been way more relaxed if I had known that the system was already in place? So I just feel attacked is all, Kate. It's fine.
Well, I'm sorry to close out that way, but no, it's not something that, we've been at YAP for 4.5 years now.
Right.
That is not something that we've always had. It's a luxury. It's kind of a necessity luxury, but you don't need to have it immediately. But the sooner you have it, and it takes extra effort to figure it out, but sooner you do, the easier your life will be, especially if you have freelancers or contractors, or if it's just yourself and you want to take a couple of days away and come back and you've got a million emails in your inbox. If you're able to track what your priorities are and what needs to get done and everything that you've got going on, it will make your life easier when that time comes.
Love it. So Kate, I'm spoiled. I'm a lucky duck. I spent 2 days with you guys in the masterclass. I've spent countless hours in the community. Hala's been on the show a couple times. We just spent some time together. How does the listener get some of this love in? Like, how does the listener tell us again the best way to reach out and to go a couple layers deeper with you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to reach out to me, you can find me on LinkedIn, Kate Ponzi. I'm pretty much, I think, the only Kate Ponzi on LinkedIn. So you'll find me nice and easy. You can also search up YAP Media with my name and that'll take you right to me. If you're interested in YAP Media, we are the #1 LinkedIn marketing agency and podcast production agency, as well as the #1 business and self-improvement podcast network. You can learn more about everything that we do at yapmedia.com. And then if you're interested in our masterclass, you can also shoot me a DM or you can check out yapacademy.com.
Cool. I think I had a coupon code running around. Do those still work?
Those I don't believe work anymore because we have shifted our masterclass to on demand. So it's actually cheaper now.
No way.
Yeah way. So the masterclass is now fully on demand. It's all the same content you would have gotten on the masterclass, but fully on demand, go at your own pace. You get all the bonuses and all the cool doodads you get that you would have gotten if you took the live virtual masterclass, but now it's fully on demand.
I'm not mad. I was saying I was a lucky duck. It sounds like the listener's the lucky duck because they get like a more accessible version. That's pretty kick ass.
Yes. Yes, it is. It is. We're really excited about it. We partnered with Teachable. So far, I've
okay.
loved Teachable. It's an amazing platform to build a course on. But yeah, it's really exciting. We're excited about it to make it more accessible in terms of the price point. And if you couldn't make 2 days in the middle of the week, you can now go at your own pace and still get the same content. So we're really excited.
Sweet. Well, Kate, thanks again for coming on the show. It flew by.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ben.
Talk soon.